Hello, everyone. Just trying to get everything adjusted. Just gonna wait and see if anybody pops in. And get adjusted in the meantime. I've had it figured out. Hello. Thank you for coming. Just gonna wait a minute or two to see if we get a couple more people in. Oh, what am I doing here? Oh my goodness. Okay, I was trying to figure out this banner thing, but it's not working for me. Oh well, that's okay. Hello. Hi, Mama Sassy. Oh, thank you so much. Hey, Crystal Medicine. This one is going to be quite interesting. Thank you for stopping by and showing some love. Absolutely appreciate it. Good morning. Good morning. Okay. So there isn't a whole lot of information on this teacher. I wasn't able to find a picture or anything like that of her. So in East Chicago, Indiana, on last Wednesday, which was October 12th, St. Stanislaus School, I could be totally butchering that name. I'm not sure how to say it. A fifth grader reported her teacher because her teacher decided to have a conversation with students about unaliving herself and multiple people in her life that she met through grammar school, high school, part of her family, and even her students. And then also admitted to having a kill list. And the student that reported her, she told that student that she was at the bottom of her kill list. So that's the gist of this. Oh, hey, Punksy. Okay, no problem. Thank you. Okay, so let's see here. So a 25-year-old fifth grade teacher by the name of Angelica Carrasquillo-Torres was reported by her fifth grade student for making comments about unaliving herself, her students, faculty, her old middle school friends, some high school friends, and half of her family. The teacher also informed the student of the kill list and that the student was at the bottom of the list. The student went to her guidance counselor And then after the guidance counselor and a couple more students stepped forward, the principal had this teacher escorted to the principal's office and had her sit there until all the students were, sorry, I can't get my stand over, so I'm trying to hold this and read at the same time. Well, the students were still in school, and then the teacher was allowed to leave afterwards. So the teacher was escorted from her classroom to the principal's office, and she was under supervision in the principal's office the entire time. After the students had left, the teacher did tell the teacher she could leave, which is mind-blowing. Okay, so while speaking to the principal and the assistant principal, the teacher admitted that everything that was reported by the student was in fact true. She also admitted to having the kill list and having the student on the kill list, but never handed the list over. The principal told this teacher, after they were dismissed, she told the teacher that she needed to leave the school and not return until pending investigation. The police were notified 4 hours after the teacher was sent home. So the student reported this, I believe, quarter after 12 or like 12:45. I don't remember. I thought I wrote it down and I didn't. And the teacher remained there for the rest of the school day. And then 4 hours after the teacher was told to leave is when law enforcement was called and told about this. I was not able to find much about how the parents were notified. There was a mom that was talking about it, said she got something through an email, but didn't disclose when it came or the context of it, but that this was not included in it as far as how serious this was. So I don't have any info on that. The law enforcement agency finally came to the school, spoke with the principal and the assistant principal, and then 24 hours later, on the next day, was when they went to the teacher's home in Griffin, Indiana, and arrested her. The teacher admitted to police officers as well that she did have a kill list. She did admit to wanting to unalive some of her students, part of her family and friends that she knew throughout the years. There is no motive per the teacher's words, just some stuff that a parent or two has said, from their children who attended the class about how she was overwhelmed and tired of, dealing with, not listening, stuff like that. So I didn't really put too much into that because nothing came from the teacher's mouth. Now, hold on, I just want to. So she was arrested and she was charged with felony intimidation, and a threat to commit a forcible felony because she communicated a threat to commit murder. And that is pretty much all it says. I know this is kind of like an odd topic to talk about. However, I felt it was super necessary. We keep hearing about all these school shootings throughout the years, and usually it is not a teacher who is the one that is going after these kids. Now we have a teacher that is. And yes, I know teaching I couldn't imagine being a teacher, the things that they have to deal with, right? And I'm sure that there are a lot of teachers that are, angry and just upset about how things aren't working out. But this is different. Okay, this is a teacher who put her own students' names, not all of them, mind you. Certain students' names were on this list. And the minor that did report her that was on this list, her name is out there. I will not put her name out there because she is a 5th grade student. This really bothers me. I know that before the pandemic hit, teaching jobs were really stressful. The teachers still dealt with a lot of things. I can't imagine what they went through before, during, or even after the pandemic hit. But this is not an excuse. I really think that this situation should be taken seriously. Could she be going through, obviously, she is going through some sort of crisis right now where she's feeling homicidal towards quite a few people and also suicidal toward, obviously towards herself. But we have a teacher who is in charge of however many 5th grade students. When this was found out, law enforcement wasn't called right away. They were called 4 hours after the teacher was allowed to go home. Who's to say that she wouldn't have taken off? Who's to say she wouldn't have unalived herself before the police got to her the next day, 24 hours later? Who's to say that she did not work on the list that she has? The list was never handed over to law enforcement from what I'm gathering, or to the school officials. There were multiple people on this list. There were people who were in her immediate family. There were people who she considered close friends. How did they know that she was not going to go after any of those just because her plans got squashed at school? She literally had 24 hours where she really could have done a lot of damage. I mean, yes, this is damaging. I can't imagine how those students must feel. Some stories say that the students on the, weren't notified because nobody knows who was on the list except for the one student. Now, whether that student knows anything else, I don't know. But like I said, I won't name her name because she is a minor. But this is scary, right? We've come to a world where when we send our children to school, we have to worry about, is somebody looking funny at our kid that works with our kid, whether it be a gym teacher, a principal, a crossing guard, a janitor, a lunch lady, whatever. We know that those threats are real. And we know that ugly, scary people come in all shapes and sizes from all different walks of life. There is no job, there is no status that sits there and falls under a predator. It can be anybody, somebody well known, somebody not known at all. So that is the first threat that we all have to worry about with our kids. And then the second threat is, which has become a huge threat now, even more so, are all the school shootings that we have going on. You drop your child off at school, you give him or her a hug goodbye, a kiss goodbye, say I love you, have a wonderful day, and you expect to pick your child up at the end of the day and ask them how their day was. Unfortunately, we've seen it all too often that these children are being dropped off in the morning, and instead of these parents calling to, coming to pick their kids up and talk about their day at school, they're getting phone calls that their children were murdered by some lunatic with a gun who went into the school. And in some instances where law enforcement just sat there and watched. Now we have a different threat, which I feel like in reality, we all knew it was a possibility. But now here is proof, okay, for all of the ones that said, oh, nope, that would never happen. They said it with the predators. They said it with the school shooters. Now we have a teacher, a 5th grade teacher who has her students on a kill list. How are we supposed to send our children to school to be protected and watched over, and knowing that that's going to happen when the very person who is supposed to teach our children and love our children as their own and protect them from everything is the one that wants to do the harm? How are we supposed to overcome something like that? How are we supposed to wrap our minds around the fact that the person that is teaching your child could potentially be plotting their death in their head? I mean, this is a big deal. Sorry. I don't know how to even wrap my own head around it. And it's disturbing to me that there is really no update on this. And the fact that she was charged with intimidation with, how did it work? Because it was a quoted statement. Hold on. Oh, because she communicated a threat to commit murder. To me, that doesn't sound right. Like, to charge somebody a felony intimidation because they voice their wants to commit murder on their students. How is that okay? To me, that just seems like it's a slap on the wrist. I don't know what was going on in this teacher's life. I don't know anything about her. I don't even know what she looks like. They simply have her name, her age, the school that she worked at, and the fact that she was a 5th grade teacher and it was some of her 5th grade students on that list. This is really disturbing. And I'm not saying that all teachers are bad. I'm not saying that all teachers are going to go down that path. What I'm saying is we are being shown that it is a real possibility. And it needs to be taken seriously, and it needs to have something done. Or we could potentially wind up just seeing this happen more and more. Look at all the school shootings that have happened that nobody's been prepared for since Columbine, okay? I mean, there's just so much that's happened. To think that there's another threat against a child in a safe place is horrific. The question is, how do we fix that? How do we make sure this doesn't happen? I don't even know what provoked this conversation. I was not able to find it. Did this, it said that the teachers just started talking to the class about this. So did she just blurt it out? Were they speaking about a certain subject that made her feel the need to talk about this? Obviously, there's seriously something going on that she even told her students about unaliving herself, and then told her students about all the people she wanted to take out, including her students. And then to go even a step further and say that she has a list with her students' names on it, and even another step further to tell one of the students that was on that list that their name was there, but it was at the bottom of the list. Let that sink in. I can't even put this into perspective. And I know I always say, let me put this into perspective. I can't, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I took the weekend off from true crime because it took a toll on me. So I stayed off of the YouTube, and then last night I started, finally going back on to try and catch up to see what I missed, and this popped up, and I was blown away. Blown away. Now, mind you, this happened last Wednesday. We're here on Monday, and there's no updates. There's no more talk about it. There's been a few articles about it, a couple of, things on the news, very short. You don't even find much out. But this is extremely disturbing. And I don't care that it's a Catholic school. It does not make a difference to me because it's a school, right? It shouldn't matter if it's a Catholic school, a public school, a day camp, a daycare, any of that. The fact is, this is a teacher who has so much inside of her that she felt the need that she had to unalive her students, some of her students. And I'm not saying that it's not important about the other people she mentioned, because obviously it is. But my main concern are the students. What if this conversation never took place? Okay, let's think about this hypothetically. If this conversation had never happened, if this fifth grader never, even if it did happen, this fifth grader decided not to tell somebody, what conversation would we be having next week? Would we be having a conversation a month from now or even a year from now where it actually went through and nobody knew about it because signs were missed? There's got to be something. And I know there's not always answers for things, but there has to be something that was going on. Was she acting different? Was she, speaking differently? I don't know. Was there something changing in her normal routine at school that anybody had noticed? I don't know. The other thing that really bothers me is that the school, from what I gathered, the school followed their guidelines, and they told her that she wasn't allowed to return to school till pending investigation. I'm sorry, but I feel like she should have been fired. She told a student that that student was on her kill list. She admitted that she had a kill list with some of her students on there. How is that not automatic termination, and how is that not an automatic 911 call right then and there to say that the police need to come here and talk to this woman? Why was she allowed to leave that building? Why did it take 4 hours after she was allowed to go home for police to be notified? Again, how many lives could she have taken in that time period? We just saw, and I don't know all the information about the situation, but we just heard about a 15-year-old that took out 5 people. Okay. And from what I'm aware of, because like I said, I don't really know much about that. But from what I'm aware of, it was just random people, and I could be wrong. I don't know. But this lady had a plan. Okay. Or I call it a plan because she had a list. She had a list, and she was allowed to leave the school with the school knowing that she had a list. She admitted to the principal and the assistant principal that she wanted to unalive her students. Her students. And nobody thought that 911 should have been called, that the police shouldn't have been informed, that the parents should not have immediately been alerted to come get their children. I mean, where the hell is common sense? Who in the hell hears that and thinks, oh, get off school grounds, don't come back, until the investigation's over? No, you fire them. Before you even fire them, you call 911 and you tell them you have an active threat in your school against your students. What if that teacher had a weapon on her? And what if she decided to take out everybody in that office and then go after them students? Then what answers would there be? All the woulda, coulda, shouldas wouldn't have made a difference. There had to be some cosmic aligning for this to go just right, that this chick did not go anywhere else but to her house without harming anybody else. Or without harming anyone, I should say, because there's no proof that she physically harmed anybody, just the list. But my point is, how the hell are our kids supposed to go to school and be safe now that we know that there are teachers out there with a kill list? How do you send your child to school confidently knowing that that teacher that you have your parent-teacher conferences with, that you say hi to every morning or every afternoon, how in the hell do you wrap your head around that? That same very person that takes the hand of your child and escorts them into the school could possibly have your child's name on a piece of paper because they have an issue with your child. What is our world coming to? I cannot believe that a person would become a teacher just to necessarily do this. I'm not saying it wouldn't happen, because unfortunately we know that there are really sick people in this world who do personally get jobs that they want in order to have access to kids and do things that they want to do, no matter how nefarious it is. And nobody wants to think that way. But how do we wrap our heads around this? Why is there no coverage on this? Why aren't more people talking about the fact that there is a teacher who has her students' names on a kill list? I don't understand it. I don't think I ever will. But I also don't understand how this isn't being talked about more. I don't see nothing about what the school plans on doing with the teacher. I don't see nothing, like the charges themselves don't make sense to me. Like, how do you charge felony intimidation when someone's communicating about committing murder? Like, I don't know. And I'm not claiming to know any legal terminology. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not any of that stuff, but it doesn't seem right to me. There has to be something more. And it doesn't say anything about this list. It doesn't say if she's out and about, will she be released? And when she is released, what's going to happen? I mean, this is not a stable person. This is not a person who should be out and about on their own. This is not a person who should be anywhere near children, anywhere near anybody, because it's not even just the kids she wants to go after. It's people within her life. Part of her family, people she went to middle school and high school with. She voiced these things to her students, on top of the fact that she was voicing to them that she wanted to unalive herself. And again, what if that child or nobody spoke out? What if they just said, oh, my teacher's having a bad day or whatever, and she's crazy or whatever? And what if they would have showed up to school the next day and something would have happened? I just, I, this just really bothers me. And, thank you guys for being here. Super appreciate it. Please hit the like button. And after this live, try to share it only because this needs awareness. Again, there is not much information out there, but the little information we have is so incredibly damaging to know. You know, am I glad to know about it? Of course, because I'm informed now, but it's completely heartbreaking to hear that this is another threat among our children. Not everybody's able to homeschool. Um, and some of these children, their safe haven is school. Their safe haven is their teacher. It's their lunchroom monitor. It's their crossing guard. It's the janitor. It's you know, it's the people inside the school. Look at what happened during the lockdown. That safe haven got ripped away from these kids so quick, and literally took their one safe place away for many students, okay? Many students. That was the only time they ate. That was the only time they weren't being hurt. That was the only time they weren't being neglected. And now we are in a position that our students go to school. We don't just worry about whether or not there's going to be a shooting. Now we have to worry whether or not there's a teacher that's unhinged and about to lose her shit all over our kids. How can this be prevented? What were the warning signs? Nobody is speaking on this. And for it not to be making bigger news is really ridiculous, because it really is a serious threat. Again, do I think, and I may not know, but do I think she woke up one day and said, hey, I'm going to become a teacher because this is what I want to do? No, I don't. But whatever happened to get that teacher to this point needs to be addressed. It needs to be found out. And I'm not saying whatever the reasons are validated, because there's no validation and there's nothing okay about the entire situation at all. There's no excuse for it. What I'm saying is, if we could at least try and figure some things out, maybe we could look for signs so something can be prevented. So we don't hear another story like this. And furthermore, we don't hear another story going all the way before it was found out. Nobody wants to bury their child. Nobody wants to send their child to school thinking that they may not come home from school. Nobody ever wants to think that a teacher could possibly be the one responsible for that. But now we live in a reality where we have to think that way. And that's really heartbreaking and sad. I have conversations with my little that I could never imagine I'd ever have as a mother. And it's heartbreaking, because our kids should be that. They should be able to be kids. They should be able to run around, have a good time, running around the area in the neighborhood with the neighborhood kids, playing in their backyard, playing in their yard, or front yard, riding their bikes, rollerblading, roller skating, skateboarding, walking around listening to music, playing in the playground, going to play basketball, walking to the library, going to get themselves ice cream. They should be able to go to schools extra excited to be around their teachers and other fellow students and their friends in class, and enjoy all the things they learn. They shouldn't have to be prepared for school shootings. They shouldn't have to be prepared for a teacher that wants to unalive her students. They shouldn't have to be prepared for any harm coming towards them. They should be able to be kids. And now there's predators everywhere. We should not have to tell our kids to not be nice to strangers, to not say hi. Our kids should be able to be kids. They shouldn't have the burden and the worry about who they say hello to, about why they can't be friendly to people. They're kids. They're innocent. They should not have to know the horrors that are out there or the horrors that are inside their school, which unfortunately is becoming more of a reality than anything. I am incredibly bothered by this. And this is not just hearsay. This teacher came out and fully admitted everything. She admitted to everything that the students were telling to the counselor and the principal. She admitted it to the principal and assistant principal herself, and then she admitted it to police. So please, somebody explain to me how this is not being talked about. Why is this not front and center in the news? Why is this not all over social media? Is it because the Kardashians are more entertaining? Probably. And I'm just throwing them out there because, I mean, I don't watch them, but I know a lot of people do. But my point is, we see purposeless bullshit all over the time making headlines. Which celebrity got paid this and which celebrity got pissed off about this. But we're not hearing about a teacher who has a kill list with her own students on it. How does that not piss people off? Because doing what? Ignoring the problem is going to do what? Nothing. It's not going to do a damn thing but leave a door open for the next person to possibly even be able to go through with this plan. Just like I said, if these students did not take her seriously and they just thought she was off her damn rocker and didn't say anything, what would have tomorrow looked like? What would have happened if by the end of that school day, she officially snapped? How do we know that she had nothing on her person or somewhere within that school that could have harmed somebody? Even if she weren't to harm somebody, what if she would have unalived herself in front of her students? Think about that. Now, think about the fact that these children know that their teacher wanted to unalive them. How the hell do you explain that to a fifth grader? How do you explain that to a child, period? And then expect them to be able to get up the next day and continue about business as usual? How do you expect that not to affect them in any way, shape, or form? I'm not saying it's going to, but I find a hard time believing that a child, knowing that their name could possibly or is on the list of their teacher who wants to unalive them, I can't see how that wouldn't affect a child. I don't see how that can't affect a parent. The very next day, they did have school through remote learning, and the students weren't there. Which, sorry, this darn stand, I can't get it to work. Which is fine, you know. But I mean, again, how does this get prevented? What were the signs? I know there's not always signs, but was it somebody in her personal life? Was there, what led up to this? This did not just happen overnight. Was it, was she over, sorry, let me get some to drink. Was she overwhelmed in her personal life? Was there a death in her personal life? Did something tragic happen? And again, these are not excuses. I'm just saying people, well, I shouldn't say that. Most of the time, something's going on right before people make these decisions to do this? How long has she had this kill list? When did she decide to add her students to the kill list? Are the students the only ones on that list and not any of the other people she had mentioned? We know that there's students on this list, right? But the other people mentioned, there's no mention if they're on that list. And I know that might not seem like a big deal, but I think it would matter to know whether or not that is. I feel like if there is a list with specific names on it and it's not just generalized, then maybe it would be easier to pick apart what correlates that name to how this teacher is feeling. Okay. Or not feeling, but like feeling towards that specific person. Why is there some students and not all? Why is there some family and not all? There's some middle school friends, but not all. Some high school friends, but not all. What happened? Something had to have happened. You don't just, okay, people who, Nicholas Cruz, for example, okay, I don't know a whole bunch about him. I know enough, and I think what they came down to was a bullshit thing. He should have got death, but that's my personal belief. Don't come at me. We all have our own beliefs about the death penalty. But him specifically, he looked up kill songs to kill to. He looked up, what was the other? There was something else he looked up. I can't remember it. But he also dressed up in like ROTC clothes to kind of blend in, okay? He had this all premeditated. And I firmly believe his only goal that day was to go in there and kill as many as he could. I don't think there was anything else behind it. It was pure driven evil. Pure driven evil. He went in there and he wanted to take out as many people as he could. And when that SOB found out he was getting life and not death, he had a smirk. That sits there and tells you how freaking evil that dude is. Even if he didn't have a smirk, he's still evil. I don't care. He is evil. But that's my point. He didn't necessarily have a list. Oh, I'm sorry. I just remembered. He also looked up the school bell schedule. Okay. As far as I know, he did not have a list with names on it, right? A lot of the school shooters typically do not have a list, right? But this teacher had a list with specific targets of children on it, okay? She told one of the children on her list that they were on her list. How was not 911 called right then and there? That is an active threat. I just don't understand it, and I'm so incredibly angry about it because, again, why isn't this being talked about? There's all this other bullshit all over the news about stupid stuff, okay? Stupid stuff. But when you have something serious like this, it's swept under the rug and nobody wants to talk about it. This is a real threat. If there is one teacher out there and you don't think there's another one, then you need to open your eyes. Because unfortunately, the reality we live in, this is a possibility. I don't think I would have ever imagined this coming from a teacher. And it really bothers me. And that's why I decided to do this last minute live on this, because for God's sakes, like, what the hell? I mean, every day we see horrific and horrible things in the true crime community. Every day we hear about the horrible crap that's going out there within the schools, outside of the schools, within the libraries, the grocery stores, everywhere. But to know that there is just one teacher who has a list of students that she wants to unalive, that's one too many. And that should have been enough for people to jump on this shit and talk about it. Because again, to be naive enough to think that there's not somebody else out there like that would be really stupid on our parts. You know, I never thought I would ever have to think about something like this, okay? But I'm not going to ignore it. It's there. It's real. And the naive thinking that it would never happen and has never crossed my mind, well, guess what? That ended as soon as I saw this on the news. So how do we go from here? How do we figure out how to prevent this from happening? Again, somebody had to have noticed something. Thankfully, the child spoke up along with other children, and the counselor did the right thing, and they all went to the principal. And law enforcement eventually did get involved. And thankfully, in that entirely long 24-hour period, not a single person was harmed. Thankfully. But that could have went wrong on so many levels. The scenarios that could have happened there are just, there's too many to even think about. Like, it kept me up because I was like, holy crap. But again, this didn't just happen overnight. What was going on? Is this a teacher who is normally upbeat and happy and all about her students? And if that's the case, did she maintain that this entire time? Or did she have days where she seemed a little frustrated or a little short with the students or staff members? Did she seem not as bubbly? Or is she one of those teachers who's just kind of, oh, hey, good morning, whatever, and not super bubbly? I mean, there had to have been something had to have happened. And the only way we can try to prevent this from happening again is to figure out how this happened in the first place, right? How else are we supposed to keep our kids safe? Again, not everybody has the luxury of homeschooling. And this isn't a conversation any parent should want to have with their kids. Finding out that their teacher wanted to unalive them. Like, seriously. And I feel like it's not being taken seriously. And I think that's what bothers me the most, is because it needs to be. I mean, how many more kids have to die, right? I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. Try not to. So sorry. How many times do we have to hear a story where a kid goes to school and doesn't come home because something happened to them at school? You hear about the teachers that throw themselves in front of those little babies that got shot at so they wouldn't get shot at. Sorry. And then you come across a teacher who is planning on taking a child's life, her own student, multiple students, and it's not being talked about. But you can find anything on Britney Spears. You can look up the Kardashians, find out whatever beef's going on in Hollywood or politics or whatever. But again, these babies are put on the back burner and the shit's not taken seriously. And again, 24 hours, so much could have happened. The school should have called the police immediately before they did anything. This teacher was a real active threat. Those people in the school, number one, had no idea that this chick was unhinged, right? Number two, had no idea whether or not she had something on her that could have helped her go through with her plan, whether it was to unalive herself or to unalive faculty or the students. It wouldn't have mattered. Thankfully, this chick didn't. Thankfully, these students got to go home to their parents. Thankfully, these parents got to hug their child one more time, where there are so many parents who don't have that anymore because people don't want to take this stuff seriously and think, oh, well, it's not going to happen in my town. It's not going to happen where I live. Our community isn't like there. I know the people that are around my child. No, you don't. You don't. I'm not encouraging people to sit there and think that everybody that is around their child is bad. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is bad comes in all shapes and sizes. I have no idea what this teacher looks like, but I guarantee you she doesn't look like the type that's going to come out and murk her students, right? Because those people, they don't have a specific look. Just because you come from money and you're well dressed doesn't mean you're a good person. Just like if you come from poverty and can't afford nice clothes doesn't mean you're a bad person. Evil walks in all shapes and sizes. It comes in all different ages. We've seen that throughout the years, how young a killer can be and how old a killer can be. We have seen killers come from the rich part of town to the poor part of town. We have seen them come from educated backgrounds to uneducated backgrounds. We have seen them come from old money and from new money and from no money. We have seen them come from good homes and bad homes. That stereotype, well, if they had a good upbringing and they're this pedigree and they come from money and they lived in a good area and their parents did it this way and not that way, that means they're fine. No, throw all that shit out the window. Throw it all out the window because there is no freaking guideline to what these monsters do. It's like cancer. It doesn't care who it affects. It goes after everybody. And that's what a monster does. And it is barbaric and it is ruthless. It is unforgiving and it does not care. And that's what we need to start understanding. And again, I'm not saying don't trust the lunch lady or the janitor or the crossing guard or the teachers or the principals or whatever. What I'm saying is we are being shown a threat. This is real. This literally happened. This is not hearsay. This is not speculation. The chick came out and admitted to every single thing the students said and what she said to the students and never handed over the list. So this teacher still has a list. And I know the list may not be important to some, but to me, it would be very important. I would want to know as a parent of that school if my child is on that list and why. Why was my child on that list? I would want to know as the principal of that school what students were on that list so I could talk to those parents. I would want to know as law enforcement who is on that list to make sure that they're protected because this chick's not going to stay in jail. Come on. She's being charged with felony intimidation. No, that is not felony intimidation. Where the hell? What kind of wording is that even? Felony intimidation. Okay, intimidation would be bullying, or like, I don't know, or like picking on somebody. This was like flat out saying she wanted to kill somebody. She wanted to commit murders, mind you. That is not intimidation. There, how that's so different. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to stumble on my words. It's just, it's frustrating because how is that not taken more seriously? Why is that not a bigger deal? I don't know. You guys in chat, would you consider this intimidation by voicing your opinion to commit murder amongst your students and your faculty and family and friends? Please, in the chat, let me know if I'm wrong. But I don't know. To me, that's a lot more than intimidation. Murder is murder. That is not the same as intimidation. Murder is taking a life. Since when is intimidation defined as taking a life? Maybe it is somewhere. I don't know. But to me, it seems like two totally different things. When you word it as intimidation, it almost makes it feel like you are lessening the seriousness of it all. And again, these are just my opinions and my feelings only. And I am a mother, and hearing everything that we hear about what does take place in the schools that we've seen over the years is absolutely terrifying. Don't get me wrong, it is horrific to think about that. But this sent a different type of chill down my bones. This gave me a different vibe. Would she have ever actually done it? We don't know. But the possibility is there. The fact that she had a list and talked about it is there. And it's so alarming to me as a parent. Even if I wasn't a parent, I would still be terrified to hear information like this. I would still be talking about this even if I wasn't a parent, because these are lives. These are children's lives that are at risk. And again, it's not being talked about. And listing it as intimidation, that is such a far cry from murder. And that's intent to murder. That's exactly what it is it not? Is it not, when you have a list with children's names on it? I mean, think about it. If you had a serial killer and you found their kill list, you would take that shit super serious, wouldn't you? Because it's a serial killer. Or if it was just a felon or a drug dealer or whatever, you would totally take that serious if this person had a bad rap or a bad a problem with like anger or whatever. But because it's a teacher, is it getting pushed to the side? Because it's a teacher, is it getting overlooked as just, oh, she was overwhelmed? Or, she just didn't get along with her students. Whatever the excuse is, it's all excuses. That's all it is. There are no real answers here because nobody is talking about it. There's no answers on how they're going to keep their students safe. This is not being talked about anywhere else. Is it being not talked about because it's a Catholic school? If it was a Chicago public school, I guarantee you it would be all over the damn place. Guarantee you it would be. But it's not. It's a Catholic school in Indiana. So does that mean it shouldn't get as much thought put into it? Like it's not that big of a deal? No, it should be taken seriously. Look at all these children that have died in this past year, just from school shootings. In the past 2 years, past 3 years, go all the way back to Columbine. I don't care. However far back you want to go. The point is, way back then, very few thought it would happen. And then it did. Way back then, after it happened, very few thought it would happen again. And then it did. And it just kept going over and over and over again. And here we are now in 2022, and think about all of the school shootings that have happened thus far to this date. And then also think about how over the years, the victims in these schools become younger and younger. Younger and younger. And yet, still nothing is being done. Nothing was being done when it was happening in the high schools and the colleges. Nothing's being done when it's happened in the grammar schools and the elementary schools, in junior highs. And now we have an inside person. We have a teacher. We have an educator. We have the person who is supposed to mold our children into being great people and learning. And that inside person that we trust our children with is now a threat. And I know in the past there have been other people who have worked inside the school who have unfortunately committed some very horrific crimes against children. And I get that, whether it was teacher or whoever. And we find out all types of horrible things, even about coaches and stuff like this. But again, this is different. It's different in the sense that this chick had a list. It's different in the sense that she openly told her students she wanted to unalive herself. It's different in the sense that she openly told her students that she wanted to unalive her former middle school friends, her high school friends, half of her family, some of her students, part of the faculty. And then she even went that extra length to tell one of the students that was on her list. She told that child, "You are on my list, but you're at the bottom of it." Let that sink in. Let it sink in. There's that perspective I was looking for. That's the perspective I want you to look at it at. Think about if that was your child. Think about if your child's teacher said that to your son or daughter. Think about how the school handled that. How would you have felt? Think about the fact that this is a very real thing that is happening. This isn't a hoax. This isn't somebody playing a dirty trick. This is real. Think about if that teacher would have went through with it, even after saying it, and that child wouldn't have made it home. And again, think about, why weren't the police called? Why did the school not feel the seriousness of the situation to call police right then and there and say, I have an active case where my children in my school are unsafe and can possibly be harmed. I have a teacher here who's saying that she wants to murder some of my students, and this is an active threat. I need your help. Please come help me. Please come protect my students. Why didn't that happen? Why didn't that happen? Why did the teacher get to go home and then 4 hours later the cops called? Why did it go that way? Why is the school not being held responsible for not calling police? There should be accountability there. Again, thank goodness nobody got hurt. Thank goodness nobody was murdered. But that doesn't mean that accountability should not be held. It is the school's duty also to keep our students safe. It is the school's responsibility to make sure that their faculty is not a threat to their students. How do you not call the damn police? How? I don't understand. How do you tell this real life threat in front of you, to sit there, and then, tell them, go home, don't come back until the investigation's done. No, they admitted to what they said. They admitted to having a list. They admitted to telling a child that was on their list that they wanted to unalive them. How are they not being held accountable? They should be, because that person was a threat at the school, and when that person got to go home that day, that person was a threat to everybody outside of that school. And again, thank goodness nothing happened. This could have went so many different ways. And thankfully it didn't. But there's no guarantee that this is not a conversation that we'll be having in the future. I hope I will never have to hear about another teacher having a kill list with her students on it. I pray that never happens again. But the reality is, it has happened, and it can happen. That is the sad reality of this. Now, what's going to happen? These kids get to go to school knowing that there was a teacher in their building that wanted to unalive her students. And what's done to protect these kids? What's done to make these kids feel better knowing that when they walk into class, that teacher that's sitting there waiting for them doesn't have some nefarious plan in their head? If I was a kid in that class, I don't think I'd ever want to step back into that classroom. Hell no. Do you think any of these children walked in that day suspecting their teacher of wanting to harm them? Absolutely not. No student would think that. But the reality is, there is a teacher that's out there who wanted to harm her students. Not just harm her students, she wanted to kill them. The reality is, the school did not call police when there was an active threat going on, and this could have went really bad. The reality is, this chick was allowed to leave school grounds and go out into society. How did they know she for sure was going to go home? How did they know she wasn't going to go unalive herself or go after whoever came into her to her passing? Why? Because they weren't on that list? How the hell would the school even have known who was on that list? Because she never handed it over. As far as I know, the cops didn't even get a list from her. The only reason we know about it is because that student came forth and said that she was on that teacher's list. Well, this has been going on about an hour, and I just wanted to put this out there. Thank you for being here, everyone. Please like, please share, or even make your own video about it, or look into it, see if there's more information you could find out about the situation. This really does need awareness. Something like this should not be kept quiet. Whether this is a one-time thing or not, the fact that this is even a thing should be serious enough. The fact that this is a threat that now children have to face among all the other threats that we've been having to worry about. This is something really serious. And everybody that will be watching this on the replay, thank you so much for doing that and being here. And again, please like and share, and please comment your thoughts. Please try and look into it and bring awareness to this. I will put the teacher's name and spelling and everything into the description. This really needs to be put out there. It needs to be talked about. And I'm not saying that there's a bunch of teachers out there with kill lists. That's not my intention. What I'm saying is we have one, and one is one too many. One is one too many. So please do your due diligence. Be aware that this threat is inside of a school. Be aware that it's not being talked about, and it should be. and be aware of the fact that we now have another threat that our children have to be worried about. I mean, I don't even know how you have a conversation with your child about something like this. You know, that's not a conversation you ever want to have with your kid, just like school shootings, you know, or predators. Nobody wants to have those kind of conversations. But unfortunately, we live in a world where it seems to be the common theme that's surrounding our children. And I hate to say it, but it's true. There's more predators out there than anybody could ever imagine. And again, there is no stereotype. It's like a cancer. Cancer doesn't give a shit who it goes after. Neither do these monsters. So please, please put the awareness out there. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you to everybody watching this on the replay. Please like and share, leave a comment, leave your thoughts. Make a video of it yourself or talk about it on your social media and bring awareness to this so we can try and figure out what was going on and if there's a way to prevent this from happening again, or what to do if this does unfortunately happen again, because waiting to call the police was not wise. Thankfully, nothing happened because of that, but again, not wise. Thank you all. Love you all. Please have a good, blessed, wonderful day, and catch you on later. Bye.